I just wanted to make high level art, that was the thing. And then I guess when you do that, that's what happens. Fame comes with it. And then there's a certain responsibility to that when it starts happening. I wasn't expecting that part, but I've learned to embrace it.
He is a Grammy-nominated force of nature, a singer, a writer, and a performer.
He's the charismatic creator of the funky cult holiday musical Holidelic. We are funked up to welcome funk master Papadelic himself, Everett Bradley.
My name is Nancy Magarill. I'm a singer, songwriter, composer, performer, graphic and web designer.
And I'm Peter Michael Marino, and I'm a writer, producer, creator, performer, and educator.
We are New York-based artists you may or may not have heard of.
And we are here to introduce you to other artists you may or may not have heard of.
What about my life? What about my faith? What about my pride? Don't live on one speech, shoot from my hip bone. Makes me start to thinking about my money bone. Constantly on a sailboat, clothes fly off my backbone. Watch me shed a tear bone for the grace of God. What about? Oh, what about? To the beat, the one about. Yeah. To the beat of your roses, which is sinful and obsessive, yet repulsive but caressive. Woo! I've given you.
Hi, Everett.
Hi.
I feel like we're in all of us are having a little bit of a homecoming, but very different because you guys work together in STOMP. And you and I, we did the panty party ages ago, and I haven't seen you in a while. This is sort of like a mixing of our whole lives together.
It's more like slices of our lives. Like a particular time period. I went to a barbecue this summer, and somebody, everybody brought something. It was in the suburbs. It was also in New Jersey, I should just say that. And somebody brought what they called a bread salad.
Okay, that sounds a little disgusting.
I was just obsessed with just the whole concept. I can't even eat bread, but I was obsessed with the concept of it. So
what is
this is like I don't know. They cut bread up and they put it in oil and herbs and they bake it and they call it a fucking salad.
Okay.
But to be fair, I've also seen in New Jersey, I've seen candy salad, which is exactly what it sounds like. Just a big bowl full of different types of candies. And then there are some that are no chocolate versions. And look.
That sounds like I'm on a diet, so I'm going to eat salad and I'm really eating candy.
Yeah. So anyway, this is like slices of our lives.
Yeah.
This is a bread salad, listener.
Right. This is exactly what you thought you were getting into, isn't it, Everett?
No, well, I'm excited because I can just listen and be entertained.
So true. Everett, have always
This is about you guys.
You're a great audience, Everett. You always have been.
I love it. Just keep going. The only thing missing is a cocktail for me right now.
Oh, I was going to say, we actually know each other not only from STOMP, but from hanging out at many alcohol-based events.
Yes.
It was the 90s. It was the early.
Wait, let's not date ourselves too much here. Okay?
Well, I'm happy to date myself. I don't like anybody else who I'm dating, so I'm happy to date myself. So we met on STOMP. You taught me portions of the show. You had been in it for about a year and change. I think you were the part of the first American cast. Were you also an understudy for the British cast?
Did you come in with Dan?
No. So Dan got it.
I love the way you said that.
No, Dan got.
He knows what I'm talking about.
Dan is married.
Yes.
To Kathy and Jimmy now.
Oh, that's Dan. Okay,
because I did not get that callback. It was between me and Dan got it.
Oh.
And that was my third callback. And then I was like, fine, I am done with this fucking show.
And wait, I'm going to tell you the story because I know it. And then Dan, as a result, met Kathy, and that's how they got married.
Yeah, so me not getting it allowed him to go on tour and be on the West Coast and meet Kathy and Jimmy, and now they have a famous daughter.
Amazing.
They're not too shabby themselves.
They are not. So Everett, to answer your question, I was the very small special group of me, Shia Lynn, and Warren. So there were just three of us.
Yes.
So you guys kind of came in at different parts, different times. Okay, today we have Kim Marie teaching us this, and today we have Everett teaching us this, and that's kind of what it was. Yeah. And we kind of got to know each other on that ferry that goes to Randall's Island, because Stomp was doing a big gig, like in a big fucking
right.
soccer stadium or something.
Yes.
And it was a little bit of a trip it was a lot of traveling with the stuff. And and that's, I always remember like, oh, that's when I got to really know Everett, just in that little boat ride.
Yeah.
Not
I
in
remember that
rehearsal.
boat ride.
Yeah.
So Everett, I'm so excited to have you on this. You represent everything about music that I love, about musicianship that I love, about performance that I love. You are a phenomenal performer. You're a phenomenal musician. You're also very charismatic on stage.
Yep.
You're just a really wonderful, warm guy. One of the things I remember, because I think when we first met, is when I was co-hosting the Panty Party, and you used to come and perform at the Panty Party, and you were just such a great sport, always dressed the crazy, it was a show where the guys had to dress in drag, and we had some resistance, never with Everett.
Right
He
up
was
his alley.
always right, and but a blast, and just
Right.
like
Did someone say costume?
Yeah. Right.
Speaking of costume, so I'm going to jump right into Holidelic, because I know you just started selling tickets for Holidelic, which is coming up.
This is like the 25th anniversary or something.
I think it started in 2005. I switched over to
20 years, about 20
Really?
years.
So it's
I feel like it was
20
before.
years.
It was before I moved to Paris.
I started doing a show called Toy in 2002.
Yes.
And I had this idea to like P-Funkify all the songs to make it into that sort of thing. And that happened in Christmas 2005. So that was the changeover.
It was at the cutting room, the old cutting room in the Flatiron, right?
Yes, I remember specifically because I started the show with dressed in normal clothes, and I had a big Christmas package on stage, and I opened the package.
Bet you did.
And hey now, let's keep it G-rated. But I got out a fur coat, I pulled out a wig, I pulled out glasses, and I pulled on boots. And then that was it. I never
you became
went back
Daddy Papadelic right there
on stage in front of everyone.
Were you Papadelic right there? Did it take a while to develop?
It's like the origin story, right?
That's the origin story. And then, it's like Catwoman.
One year, then he had big white hair. The next year, the white hair lit up,
Right.
The year after that, fireworks came out of it. People come out of it. It's just evolving character.
Right, it's like Catwoman. She gets pushed off a ledge. It's like, oh, I landed on my feet.
Yes. Do you just love the holidays? I mean, it's hard to do the show. It's hard to continue doing the show.
Yeah.
And New York City and the holidays are hard. How do you get through this freaking show?
That is a very good question. Well, I mean, growing up, I loved Christmas. I loved everything about it. When I was a little kid, I used to walk around the neighborhood and look at all the lit up houses and trees, and I used to just get all warm and fuzzy.
Where was that?
Into it. That was in Muncie, Indiana.
Oh, wow.
And then, so I've always wanted to, actually, no, I take that back. Mike Chiodo, we were really upset over 9/11. And we were looking for ways to heal ourselves. And so Mike said, let's write some Christmas songs.
Oh.
So we started writing songs, and that's what ended up being the album Toy.
Oh, my God.
But Holidelic became very deeply personal because both of my parents died at Christmas time.
Yeah.
My mother in 2003, and then my dad in 2005.
Mm.
Oh, wow.
So now Holidelic has become a way for me to get through the holidays.
Right.
Because of that.
Right.
Yes. So I get
God,
to
you
put
would
on a
never
costume and just get through it, and then it's over.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still good. I don't mean that in a dark way, but it's therapeutic.
Absolutely. Oh, that's what we talked about in a previous podcast.
It's all therapy.
Yeah.
Was there music in your house growing up, or were you the music?
I was, actually, my sister Lucinda, she played the saxophone, and my oldest sister played the clarinet. That was the extent of it, basically.
Did you guys play together?
No, we never did. But the saxophone was still in the house, and I used to pick it up and do things on it, and then...
That explains
You
a
went there.
lot.
You went there.
That's a whole other conversation.
Oh my God.
But no, and then
Oh.
I asked for a little organ, like a little synth for Christmas, and my mom got me
Yeah.
one, and then that's when I started figuring out how to play songs on the radio.
I just want to say this conversation is going to places I had no idea it was going to go.
Oh my gosh, I
It can go
predicted this.
tangentially in ways that
This is
my
exactly
mind
what
is
I
just
planned.
gone now.
But
you were able to just recreate something you heard on
yes,
a
it
piano as a
started-
kid, and it was
started
like,
that
oh,
way.
I enjoy doing this. Maybe
And
this
then I
will-
asked for lessons, and then my mom set me up with piano lessons, but I only had this little keyboard.
right.
Oh.
And so the piano teacher was like, she talked to my parents, said he needs a piano.
Oh,
And my
good.
dad was like, no.
oh.
Oh
'Cause-
no, I'll just get him drums.
No,
You're like, "I'll get
no,
you,
it was
Dad."
like no music. We want
Wow.
him to actually play sports or study engineering or
Good Lord, was
or
Dad
be a
off
teacher.
on that? Wow.
Yes. It's like, let's stay focused. Don't let him do it. And my
Wow.
mom fought him, and she got the piano anyway.
Oh, good for
Amazing.
her.
This is going to be
No.
so great in the TV movie. I already love this scene.
So then I started figuring. She was teaching me like what I had already sort of started figuring out, and then when I got into high school, I was like playing football and singing in the show choir, and in marching band, and then it came up that I got a scholarship to go study engineering in Boston.
Ah,
But I talked to my mom and I said, I don't want to do it. Can
Wow.
you please help me get an audition
Oh.
at a music school? So behind my dad's back, she got me voice lessons.
what the?
And then I auditioned for Indiana University and got in, and they gave me a scholarship. And
Wow.
I had to present the whole thing to my dad. It was
Oh
like-
my gosh.
And he was like, wait a minute. The school is giving you money for music?
Suddenly his tune, no pun intended,
and
changed.
that's when it clicked for him. Finally.
Wow.
Wow.
I love
know.
this scene in the movie is also really good.
I know. Thank God also because it probably would have ended up in divorce. Otherwise, he would have been like, what have you been doing?
They fought.
And that was it.
Wow.
So then college is coming to near, you're finishing it up and you're like, I guess my next thing is to move to New York City.
Yeah, I was in high school and I went on a theater trip to New York.
you
And
got
that's when
the
I
bug.
saw it and I got the bug. Totally. I saw
Whoa.
it and I'm like, this is my home. I know it. Like I saw all those different kinds of people all stacked up on top of each other. and
Yeah.
making life happen.
yeah.
And I saw shows and I was like, oh my God.
Do you remember what show you saw or one of the shows you saw?
The Fantastics.
Oh,
was the first
Oh,
one.
wow.
Oh wow! Was like early on then, like
Early
Jerry,
on.
or Jerry Orbach maybe was in it.
Yeah.
Right.
I
That's how long
something
ago it
I can't
was.
remember who was it. But I
Yeah.
do remember seeing the Elephant Man
Oh
with
my
Mark
gosh.
Hamill.
Wow!
Wow.
Yes.
The drama. That's a
Right?
deep show for a high schooler.
Pete, what was your first Broadway show?
My first Broadway show was I was in junior high school. I think I was whatever the last part of junior high school is called, 9th grade. And there was a trip into New York City to see a show, and the show was Frankenstein. I love all the Universal monsters. I just grew up with painting little creatures of the Black Lagoon, and I love that. So I was like, Frankenstein, yes. And
This explains so
And-
much.
it totally does, because the show was amazing and the show closed the next day. It got such bad reviews.
Oh.
Wow.
So cut to, we're locked down during pandemic. I'm creating a show called Planet of the Grapes, which is a homage to toy theater, and there has to be an avalanche. And I have to show my director on Zoom, in another state, how I'm planning this. And it's like this sort of taking this mesh and tying these little foam rocks to it and rolling it up and letting it unfurl. And she was like, that's fucking genius. And I said,
That's
that is
Frankenstein.
exactly how they made the castle fall down at the end of the first Broadway show I ever saw.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Love it.
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
That's awesome.
What was your first Broadway show, Nancy Magrill?
Yes.
I think, and I may be wrong, but I think it was Annie, which is really sad. It's
Wowee.
kind of sad, right?
No.
Maybe in the movie of yours, we'll find something else. I don't know. The original cast of Fiddler, and you see Bette Midler, and you're like, I have to do that.
Yeah, that wasn't what made me want to do this. Although I was jealous as a kid. I definitely I was like, oh, I wish I could do that. But I don't think that was the thing that made me go, I have to do this.
Everett, do you ever get jealous of people? Did you ever, or do you ever? Is that a thing? I can't imagine that's a thing.
I can't
for you.
imagine you getting
No.
jealous.
I don't get jealous, but I do get inspired
Yeah.
by people.
That's
like, I'm like,
crazy.
oh, I like what they're doing. I'm going to do that, except I'm going to add X,
Yeah.
Who do you remember being like one of those figures that you were like, this is a little bit of a voice for me?
When I saw Sophisticated Ladies on Broadway, and it was not Gregory Hines, but his brother who just passed.
Right. Yes. And
Maurice.
Maurice.
Yes, Maurice Hines. And the way he was singing and dancing and just killing it, I was like, yes, I want that. I want to be that.
That's cool. Do you dance like that?
I do.
Like, are you a really good dancer?
Yeah.
He was in the Broadway show Swing, which
Oh.
came around the time that swing was really big.
Yeah.
And they got to show up.
They made a show. They
made
made
a
it
show.
happen as
And then
soon
they
as
said,
possible.
Everett, we need you to write a damn song right now.
Wow.
Swing
I
that
didn't
girl
know that.
around. I did not do any research, Everett, by the way. I'm coming out of a shower, a long day. working
Oh
with a puppet
my
company.
God. You're doing good.
Yeah, this
You
is
don't
pretty
need
good.
research.
This is pretty good.
I want to know then how you got from all of the theater and all this stuff to percussion. At what point did you decide percussion? I want to start lugging around all this heavy gear.
Yeah.
No, that's a really good question. So I'll try to make it a short story. When I was in Indiana, at Indiana University, I was playing in a funk band.
What were you playing?
I was singing.
Okay.
And I was like the male singer. And the guys in the band were like, when you're not singing lead, can you be doing something else? And so I got a pair of congas. And
That's how it happens.
Exactly.
This is crazy. And you just got a pair of congas.
I got a pair of congas, and I already sort of played saxophone, so I was able to play like, I'm never gonna dance again.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And then and then I was playing keys. I had like a synth, and so that was what I was doing in the band when I wasn't singing lead. So when I got to New York, all those things were like survival.
Yeah, you could play with many different kinds of
Yes.
people.
And that's what, and Stomp totally changed my life as a percussionist, because it just, I was playing like sort of a limited, sort of traditional way, like congas and timbales and tambourines. But when I got to Stomp, I'm like, oh, you mean I can make that sound on a trash can?
Yeah.
And so when I went into studios, I started playing on music stands, or shuffling my feet on a rug,
Sure.
or getting the little bottle and playing on it. And it gave me an edge.
Right, you
Right.
became a
over all the
session
other-
guy.
Yes, over all the percussionists. And plus I sang.
So you started doing a lot of sessions, and that helped you stay alive in the city and do what you want to do?
So I was playing in this band, and this artist from Jersey named John Eddy, he was signed to CBS, and he was slated to be the new young Springsteen. And he recorded his album at John Kellen Mellencamp's studio in Indiana. And while he was there, he was scoping out bands. And so he chose Sean Pelton, who was in that funk band with me.
Oh, you didn't say that. That's interesting.
Yes, and he saw me too, and he took us with him back to Jersey.
Oh, cool.
That's the beginning of your Jersey band adventures, isn't it?
Yes.
Weirdly, the seed was
Totally.
planted.
Yes, and so I was
God.
playing with John Eddy, and we did the last Bangles tour opening up for them, and the
Oh.
last tour with the Kinks.
Oh my
as they're
God,
opening act.
so diverse.
And so that's what introduced me to Jersey and the whole sort of recording, touring thing.
So I'm a little lost in the time, though. So you
Okay.
came to New York, and then you started becoming a session guy in New York. But where does that fit in with John?
So I was, after I graduated, I stayed in Indiana for a while. And then when this thing happened with John, I moved from there to New York with Sean Pelton, and we lived together in the
So
East
you
Village.
started touring and all that before you even moved to New York City.
Right.
Wow.
You also
that's
didn't
great.
know
But
what you wanted to do.
I
or
didn't really,
be.
I lived in Jersey.
Well, that's still, but you came to the East Coast to be part of the New York scene.
Right, right.
I was just saying, but it sounds like, also like, I don't, maybe I'm just thinking of thinking of my friends too. Like you graduate from college and then you're like, okay, I'm going to go to New York City and I'm going to work really hard to become and it sounds like you were just like, you know what? I'm just going to go and I'm just going to go where the wind takes me.
Totally.
That's so crazy.
I used to tie a towel around my neck and climb up to the highest step, jump off to see if I could fly. I kept falling on my face, but I always gave it one more try. 'Cause who the hell was Newton anyway? The laws of gravity didn't apply to me because I was fearless. I was fearless then.
We love to ask folks like what was the moment, like what was the project or the gig or the whatever that you were like, yeah, this is the one. After this, I'm living the high life. I never have to hunt down a job, never have to go through the Village Voice, and never have to, what was the one? Because it seems like you had
Springsteen.
40 of them.
There's a lot of them, actually.
Yeah.
But
They're all really good ones.
Bruce Springsteen was one of them.
Okay, I just want to say he is the reason I became a songwriter. He is
Wow.
he is my inspiration because I think he is the best songwriter. And every time I write a song, I'm just like, I want to be at that level. As a lyricist, I just think he is a poet and knocks me out. So I'm
amazing.
so glad that you've gotten to play with him. I'd love to know what that's like. And
Yeah, I put it out there into the universe. Like it was, I was on my 5th year with Hall & Oates, and I also, toured with Bobby McFerrin. I did some work with Carly Simon too, and I was like,
God, you've had it so rough.
I want to do this big. Like I just put it out there, and I kept thinking about who it could be, and it was someone like that. And it's a little bit of a tale, but it's worth it. I get this phone call from a friend from Jersey, and he wants to hire me to play a show in Asbury Park. And so I said yes.
This is my ticket.
And he sent all the songs to me, and they're all Bruce Springsteen songs.
Wow.
So I called Bobby, and I said, what's up with this? Like, what are we doing? And because first he presented it as a tribute show. I think. Yeah. And I'm like, this is a tribute show? He goes, okay, busted. And so I confronted him about it, and he said, okay, it's Bruce, and he is doing a fundraiser for his son's college. It was like Boston College. And his son, I guess, started some sort of college fund there for kids who needed money for school.
Nice.
And so he wanted to help him raise money. So I'm like, great. So I learned all the tunes. We get there. My setup was placed at the front of the stage, which is odd for a percussionist. I'm usually next to the drummer. So it was up there, and I was singing too. And so I'm like, Bobby, what's going on here? And he's like, I just thought it would be fun for him.
Wow.
What?
And why didn't
I'm
he
like,
tell
really?
you? Why
It's
didn't
like,
he tell
yeah.
you that you were going to be playing with Bruce?
Oh, because I guess they were trying to keep it a secret.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it's Bruce. And they try to hide those things because everyone shows up with Stone Pony, So we do sound check. Bruce hardly looks at me. he's just sort of listening to me, and it seemed to go fine. We do the show. He's all up in my grill, like with his arm around me. We're like singing the microphone, and I'm like, motherfucker, you don't know who you're messing with. Like, it's showtime for me. So I'm going in.
Yeah.
So we're like doing dance steps and just like carrying on. So then 3 months later, I get a phone call from the management, his management, and says, Bruce is putting a tour together and he really liked his experience with you. And he's never had a percussionist before.
Oh,
What?
God, that's so wonderful.
So he wants to know if you will come in and rehearse with the E Street Band.
I mean,
And I'm like, yeah.
Oh,
And
hello.
he said, can you come this Wednesday? It was a Monday. And I said, no. And I said, I'm leaving to fly to Japan with Hall & Oates
Oh, wow.
on Wednesday. And then they said, can you leave a day later?
oh my God.
And I said, no.
Yeah.
I said, because once I make a commitment, I
Commitment.
just try to keep it. Because I
And
know
that would have
how
put
hard
them in
that
a
is.
crazy place.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he was like, the management was like, are you sure it's Bruce? And I'm like, I know, I just can't do it. So I got on the plane and I was bummed that happened. And I get an email while I'm in Japan from the management that says, can you take a picture of your setup and call us when you return? So I get back and then I get the management on the phone. He was like, it's not like Bruce was auditioning other percussionists. He was so impressed with your level of commitment that he decided to wait for you.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. You know what? That doesn't surprise me about him, that he would respect that.
Right, right.
And that you would be
Wow.
that kind of a person to do that as well.
So I kept
cool.
asking,
Wow.
can you send me music? He was like, nope. And I'm like, what gear should I bring? They're like, don't worry, we're sending a car to get you. I get out of the car and get to the stage, and they have an exact replica of my
Holy
percussion setup.
wow.
Oh, that's so
Must
cool.
have been dying inside. This is crazy.
And he sent me no music, and I'm like, I don't know any of the songs. He was like, I know.
Oh,
I want to see what you do on the fly.
Freaking
oh my
crazy.
God, that's so cool. I mean, that's what it's about, right? And that you have
Totally.
those chops that you can get up there and just jam with Bruce. Like, that's
Yes.
great.
And it was so
Oh, I
freeing
love
because
that.
I didn't have any like baggage of, I hope I remembered that
Yeah.
part or any of that. I was just making it up. And, and part of it in his defense was because people call audibles in the audience all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes you may not be as familiar with those old songs from old albums, and you just got to pull it out. So
Yeah.
that's part of the whole E Street magic.
That's just, I love that story. I think that's so great, and it's a perfect match. And I think that's what is really why his shows are so exciting to watch. I actually think I saw you guys when I was living in Paris. I think you came over and played with him, and you got me backstage, if I recall.
Yes, that's
yeah.
right.
And I just remember, I think his shows are so magical. He was that's one of the reasons I became a musician. As I said, I remember seeing him perform when I lived in Baltimore, and it just was such a magical concert. He gives his all, which you do. It makes sense that you guys would be working together because it is that captivating of a performance, and that's so wonderful.
Yes, that was definitely one of those pinch me moments.
Yeah.
But it also it probably did lead to many other. Did that lead to
Oh,
Bon
yeah.
Jovi? Speaking
That
of New
led
Jersey,
to Bon Jovi, that led
Yeah.
to Meredith Vieira,
Wait,
But-
Meredith Vieira. Oh, the show, right?
the show, yeah.
Sorry.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
musical director, right? Wow.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, gosh. So what's the thing that you're what has to happen now? Like what's the thing, like what would be
I need
the
a job.
greatest thing?
You need a job.
I mean, right, yeah. We always try to book guests when they're not working because we find they're at their most vulnerable.
Actually, that's when you're free. Yeah, what is next for you besides the Holidelic shows coming up, right?
Well, I turned Holidelic into a musical. I wrote a story for it.
Oh,
Yes, because I'm getting old and I can't wear these platform boots for too much longer.
I hear you.
I don't know how you have done that.
I hear you.
That
And
is
I
crazy.
wanted to keep going, and I thought if I can just make this into an actual theatrical event, then I can cast it
Right.
with other actors.
And you're giving the audience something new, but something familiar at the same time, right? That's
Totally.
what we're used to with this show,
Yes.
right? Like, oh, this year it's going to have this kind of twist or theme, and oh, this year it's going to have this costumey thing or this guest, or this time it's like, oh, this one has a plot.
And it's
Yeah.
also kind of become a classic, at least in around New York. It's sort of like Trans-Siberian Orchestra, where they do their big Christmas thing every year. I feel like Holidelic is one of those things that everybody's waiting for every year.
Yeah, and that's my dream, actually, to make it like a Trans-Siberian, that it can be in multiple cities
Yeah.
and or tour like the country or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
How are you trying to make that happen?
I have a booking agent now. She's the one who pushed me to write the story, and she signed off on it. She loved it, and it's still, the format is like a Hedwig type thing where the lead singer is actually telling the story,
Yeah.
sort of thing, and the band are the various characters at any given moment, that sort of thing. But she is looking to book it in theaters. We didn't have luck this season, so that's why we're only doing 2 shows. But
At Sony Hall,
yeah,
Where's Sony Hall?
underneath the Paramount, great venue. That's like considered the best sound in
Yes.
any venue in New York City.
Wow.
right.
Yeah, they put a lot of pride into that.
Yeah, but she had a difficult time booking it because Christmas is a very specific thing.
Yeah.
And so you only get really a month window to make it happen. So there's that. And theaters can be a little conservative about that time, and they'd rather book,
Traditional.
traditional, like a Christmas story or
Well, let me ask you a question. Have you thought about making it into a film?
that is where I'm headed as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm trying to make a treatment. Actually, I would love it if it wasn't animated.
Please make it a stop motion. Everyone needs to have a little bendable,
Yes.
posable, stop motion inspired Everett Bradley on there.
I love that he went to merchandising.
I mean,
Like that.
Totally, of
come
course.
on. It's so obvious. You press the button in the back and the hair lights up.
But there's no urban Christmas story that comes around every year like all the rest of them. And I feel like there's still time for me to get in there and make it happen.
Totally.
Yeah. and-
Absolutely.
There's a familiar chill in the air. Soon the bells will ring. Better prepare. We get the tree, the finest pine. The tradition remains right down the line. We trim our lives with the latest sensation as we hide behind the strings of decoration. You can have the brightest star, but the holiday is who you are. Let's decorate the world tonight.
So I want to ask you a question, just a little detour for a minute, because I want to talk a little bit about what life is like on the road. And I also want to ask you about like some of the craziest things that you've experienced on the road as a performer, as a human. Like what is that like being on the road? I think listeners would want to know that.
Wow.
It seems so glamorous, right? But I know from
Seems.
you, Daniel Manceris, like from a lot of people, of what it's really like. And I think it'd be great to hear it from someone who's experienced it.
And you've experienced it over the course of 2 decades,
Yeah.
right? It was a lot of fun when we were on tour
Yeah.
in South America. But now
Yes.
I'd be like, oh,
Yeah. Oh
Go
my
ahead.
God, those Stomp tours.
Oh my
The
God.
Stomp tours are really rock and roll. That's what I loved about
That
it.
was rock and
It
fucking
was,
roll.
yeah, it was not a theater tour to me
No.
at all.
It prepared you for a life in rock and
Totally.
roll.
Yes, absolutely. Because everyone's in the pub after the show.
Or the club.
The pub or the club.
The pub or the club. Or they're running away from Tamar Halpern.
Oh, she's on.
I don't know.
Well,
Just
what's it
the-
like? What
which
is your
one-
day to day on a tour? Like, are you mostly on tour buses, or are you now flying everywhere? Like, what is it like? What is that day to day?
It depends on the artist. You know, I toured with Seal this during 2023 because I had time off from Bon Jovi, so I was able to do it, and it was a tour bus for the most part, and I hadn't done that in like 10 years or so.
Wow,
It's like a
What
whole
was it like?
vibe.
It's a whole vibe, and I forgot all the rules, like, you know, no pooping in the toilet.
Wait, what? How do you not poop in a toilet when you're on a bus?
You gotta wait till you pull over.
You wait till you pull over, you have to go to the gas station or something, because the poop doesn't just go out of the bus, it travels with you, and it starts seeping
And stinking.
and stinking. Yeah.
So do you have to like go up to the bus driver and say, "I really have to poop"?
Or you have to just, everyone plans their
meals.
meals and their
Oh my God.
bathroom breaks.
Did not think this would
Peeing
be a
is
topic.
okay. I know. I'm sorry.
No,
I
no, no.
went
You're giving
total,
you're keeping it real, Everett.
This is
I
so
went
great though, because you
total
would never
outhouse
think about this
right
stuff.
away.
This is what
Who
we'll
would
use
think
for the
about this?
teaser. Nancy,
Right?
make a note of that. We'll Everett talking about poop, and people will be like, "I have to listen to this."
Oh
God,
my
the
God!
poop part didn't come until 45 minutes in, but it was worth it.
Right.
But it is fun to like travel on a tour bus, you know, because everyone's watching movies together
Yeah.
usually on the screen, or and that's fun, and we all get to sit around and drink and talk about the show in a cool way. And it's usually the front part of the bus is set up like a little mini living room, so that's fun. Sleeping can be difficult because, you know, you are in like little tiny bunks. There's no
Yeah.
you can, depending on the tour bus, you have to just stay laying down, or maybe you can sit up in the bed, depending, you know, if it's
Yeah.
like it travels with 8 or 16.
Wow. And are you able, if like let's say everybody goes to bed at a certain time, if you can't sleep, if it's one of those nights, is it cool to just get up and go out into the front and watch TV or do something? Like it's not, you know, you're not restricted or anything. It's
Right.
like you're home.
Yeah, it's like you're home. Everyone's in their jammies.
What do you do if someone's like a big snorer and you're like if you're someone who can't sleep if someone's snoring? Is that ever
Well,
a
I
problem?
mean, we're in like these little cubbies, and you pull a curtain, and the bus is humming.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can't really hear.
I was
you might
remembering
think.
on the Stomp buses, the very, very back is like the best spot to like make your bedroom, but it kind of just became like the hangout. Like
Yeah.
it was like being in Genie's bottle. You know what I mean? Like it's just very loungy.
Yeah,
That's
but
what I
if you're on a tour
remember.
with the star, they get that space, right?
I think the star is not on the bus at all with you anyway. I don't know. Star's like,
Well, it
bye.
depends on who. Was Seal on the bus with you?
No,
Oh, okay.
he had his own bus.
Now, were you on with the crew or were you just the band on the bus?
Just the band.
Like I know someone who went on a major tour and he was first with the crew and he was like, I can't do that.
Yeah, the crew, they're like buzzing on a whole other level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus they have to get in there much earlier. Like their schedule is so different.
Yeah.
And they're already sick of all the artists.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. But now,
Rightfully
with
so.
Bon Jovi, that's on a private jet.
Oh.
Yes.
And is it just the band goes on the private jet or just the whole crew? Like how does it work with
There's the A crew
Right.
is on the jet, which is the band, and any like personal assistants usually are like on that, and management is on that. And then the crew is like on a separate.
I would think Bon Jovi would be really cool too. He's got the soul like Springsteen does. He feels
Super
like he's
cool.
someone who's super cool and very
Yeah.
generous.
I
and-
mean, but I have to say the tours are high end, like all 5-star hotels. But it's almost so high end that it's stressful.
Mm.
They'll
why?
probably beat me up for that because you are representing the brand. So when you walk out of your hotel room, there's fans,
You
there's
could be like,
cameras,
"Hi."
Yeah.
and you have to look good
Wow.
because everyone's like filming now and taking
Yeah.
pictures and posting like crazy.
Do you learn that, or does someone tell you that?
You learn it because
Yeah.
you're like, oh, wow, I don't
Right.
look good in that photo. And I'm
Yeah.
like with all the other guys at
Right.
Starbucks, and they're all in their like rock and roll gear. And I have my, my hair in a bun
Right.
and my house slippers. That can't happen.
Oh my God, I love it. Although it'd be great.
It's not
Um,
like they're not spending all of this money on this high end private jets and all, the high, they're not making you comfortable. They're making you comfortable because that's a really smart way to keep your artists thriving and happy, right?
Yes.
And loyal and excited, like as long as
Well,
you're
and also they can afford to do that.
Yeah,
Yes.
but
Bon Jovi.
well, plenty of people can afford it, but they don't even do it. I'm sure there are people that can afford to send their artists on the best possible plane and
That's true.
stay at the best possible hotel, but they don't. And I feel like this is a great indication. It's not like we're showing off our money. We're spending this money because it's going to make our art the best it can be, because everyone is rested, everyone is eating well, everyone has, not the stress of flying and waiting at airports.
I also
Right.
feel like with someone like Bon Jovi and probably Springsteen, they also want to treat their people well because that's who they are. It's not that I'm going to get a better performance out of them if I let them, sleep in a 5-star hotel. I think they genuinely are like, if I'm going to sleep that way, they are.
That's
Everett?
exactly right.
Yeah.
Bruce Springsteen in particular, he he kept us on retainer, and the idea was
That's great.
I don't want anyone rushing anywhere to like pay their rent or freaking out. He's like, because when I have a lot of people that are stressed around me, it doesn't really bode well for making a great performance or to
Mhm.
learn whatever
So it's
or
kind
to
of a
be
mix.
in the moment. So
Yeah.
that's why he did that.
I'm sure you
mean-
treat your performers the same way, right?
I
Well, we're going to
try
have Daniel Manceris on at some point, so we'll find out.
Oh, that would be a good one.
I would
That
love
was
to
not an
have him on.
accusation, by the way. It was it was like if
they
you're
would probably
learning,
say no.
you
no,
learned you learned all of this, and then you are also a producer, and you have to deal with this cast of thousands who are in Holidelic every year.
Like Holidelic is a perfect example. I do what I can because it's a lot of people
Yeah.
on stage, and they're all kind of high end people too. So they do it because of the love, but I do all I can to make them as comfortable as possible
Yeah.
and like absorb
Yeah.
costs, and they appreciate it.
I want to ask a question about fame because we talk about that a lot on this show. Did you want to be famous, or do you have a desire, or now that you've been around so many famous acts, what are your feelings about that?
That's a good question. That wasn't my idea. I just wanted to make high level art, That was the thing.
Yeah.
And then I guess when you do that, that's what happens. Fame comes with it. And then there's a certain responsibility to that when it starts happening. I wasn't expecting that part, but I've learned to embrace it.
So are you off the road for a while, or what's the next 6 months to a year looking like for you?
Well, I mean, to be straight up and very honest with you, I don't know if you've heard, but John Bon Jovi is having some vocal issues.
Okay, I think I reached out to you, maybe to you,
Yes, you did.
about hooking him up with Tylee.
You did.
Wait, you married Tylee,
I married
right?
Tylee.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh!
Yeah. He didn't physically marry
Right.
Tylee for the listener. He's a
I'm an officiant.
So Tylee, I actually thought it would be great for John to work with Tylee.
I think that's a really good call. Mostly because Tylee has both. He has like pop chops and he has like the classical. I mean, as far as Bon Jovi, he is in the process of healing from an operation. And, and if you see the documentary that came out earlier this year, he goes in depth about it.
Oh, I
And
didn't see that.
basically, yeah, it's called Thank You, Good Night, which I thought was really charming at first. And then I saw it, I'm like, oh, this is scary. This could be also good night
Yeah.
for a long time. So we'll see. But just the short story is that he had atrophy on one side of his vocal cords. So one side was working and the other had just dropped. And so they weren't parallel so they could phonate and vibrate.
Right.
So they basically put like a plastic sort of apparatus inside one side of his vocal cords. And Shania Twain had the same operation. And he used her surgeon, and they put a piece of plastic in so they can be parallel side by side so they can vibrate. So basically he's relearning how to sing and how to sing his catalog.
Wow. Oh
We
my
meet
God.
once a month and we do rehearsals as he keeps adding more and more of his songs to the catalog, because he does work with
Speech there, a therapist.
Yep, therapist. And then he wants to be with the band
Yeah.
just to like check in. The goal is to tour 2025.
Oh my God, I
we'll
hope
see.
so. I hope so.
I know it's open-ended, so we're all keeping our fingers crossed. And
When
lots of prayers.
that happens, Nancy and I will come see it, but we will only see it in New Jersey.
Jersey loves you for that.
Hey, thanks for checking us out. Links to today's guest can be found in the show notes.
Don't forget to subscribe, like us, rate us, and tell all your friends about arts and craft.